Welcome, dear listener, in today's program of Mapuziro Digitubuko. You are with me, Jonathan Mzumazi, and today I'm joined by Beth Gum, a senior education advisor from International Parliamentary Network for Education. This is Radio Alinafe. Today we will focus on their role and what they do as they are helping Malawi in terms of foundational learning. Stay tuned. Today I'm honored to host you, Beth Gum.
Thank you very much for having me, Jonathan, and a warm hello to all your listeners.
Yeah, welcome. So you are here representing International Parliamentary Network for Education. First of all, maybe tell us more about your role at this institution.
Thank you. So, I'm a senior education advisor at the International Parliamentary Network for Education, or we can say IPNEd, if it's not so long. IPNEd is our acronym. So my background is as a teacher. So I've taught children in lots of different countries around the world, particularly on how to teach reading. So teaching children from age 3 to about age 6, really helping build the early reading skills so that they can go on to later learning in primary and then secondary school. So now I'm not working in the classroom anymore, which sometimes I really miss. And I work with parliamentarians around the world to support them to take action for learning. So particularly reading, but also numeracy and socio-emotional skills. So in Malawi, as IPNEd, we've been working with many partners across the country to engage the Malawian Parliament, firstly to grow their understanding of what literacy, numeracy, socio-emotional skills, the levels are like in primary schools here, and then to support them to take action.
I want to know about this organization and how it was maybe formed.
Sure. So we were founded in 2020 by our executive director called Joseph Nyan O'Reilly, as well as former UK Member of Parliament. His name is Stephen Twigg. Stephen Twigg now works for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. He's the Secretary General there. So IPNEd was founded very much because there is a gap in the education sector on parliamentary engagement. So in the health sector, there are lots of parliamentary networks working on different issues, working on HIV/AIDS, working on nutrition and vaccines. But in the education sector, there is no parliamentary network. We are the only parliamentary network dedicated to education globally. Yeah. So this is the gap that Joseph, our director, and Stephen, the former MP, UK MP, they identified, and that's what we're really trying to champion globally.
So it's based in the UK?
Our headquarters, our secretariat, yes, we're based in the UK, and because we work globally, we have about 500 members of parliament in the network from 90 parliaments, so many countries, and the UK, yes, is where we're based.
Okay, now here in Malawi, how does IPNEd maybe work, or how can you relate this IPNEd to Malawi?
Great question. I mean, the first thing I would say is that obviously I'm a Mzunga. I'm a foreigner.
Not a foreigner, I think it's something, but Mzungu.
Yes, I'm not from Malawi, right? So everything that we try and do as IPNEd, we don't come with our own agenda, our own ideas. We come very much to support civil society and partners because they are the experts. And we try to amplify what civil society are saying with the Parliament. Often there are many organisations already working with Parliament, there are connections, but also what we try and do is bring a common vision behind one specific issue in education. So I know we're going to talk more about foundational learning, which I will share, but so one thing we do when we start work in a specific country like Malawi is we talk to all the partners working on a specific education issue, and if there isn't already an agreement that actually these are the 3 things we want our political leaders to do about this issue in education, we help build that consensus, help really build a collective voice behind one issue, and that makes it much easier for political leaders teachers to then take action. When everyone is saying the same thing, they're all singing the same song, they can hear. It makes it much easier. So that's what we try to do.
Okay, so recently we have seen that you are in Malawi, and then you were talking about Malawi's foundational learning crisis. Our children learning? There are some worrying numbers. What are these biggest challenges that you have seen in Malawi?
Yes, I mean, the evidence is quite worrying about foundational learning. So foundational learning is understood to be the skills that you learn from ages around 3 but to the age of 10 in reading, in basic mathematics, and socio-emotionally. And if you don't learn how to do these very basic, these foundational skills at the right age, evidence shows that more children are likely to repeat standard 1, children are likely to drop out of school, and they fall behind in the standard, in the classes, in the classroom. So yeah, the evidence shows, Jonathan, that 14%, only 14% of children aged 7 to 14 in Malawian primary schools are reading for the right age. So this is obviously not what the government would like. It's not what I'm sure communities would like, not what parents want. So these worrying statistics, and it's a little bit better for numeracy, but not much, have very serious consequences for both children, the communities, but also for Malawi as a whole. If you have a young population, which I know Malawi's population is very young, if you don't build the potential that your young people have, and if they're not acquiring the education that they need to continue learning and really thrive, it's very difficult to achieve higher human capital development, to achieve more social cohesion and innovation and grow in the technology space is much more difficult.
From my notes here, only 19% of children can read and understand, and 13% have basic numeracy. What do you think are the main reasons behind this?
So I think there's lots of different reasons, which is what makes it so complicated to solve. One big thing is that teachers are not always being trained to teach children how to read using evidence-based methods. So there's loads and loads and loads of research behind what reading looks like, what good instruction for reading looks like. So in other words, what teachers need to do in a classroom, the skills they need to teach. So for example, one of those skills is recognizing the sound of a letter. So if we look at the letter A, is understanding it makes the sound ah.
Yeah.
So this is one first skill. Another would be comprehension. So when we read a word, we understand what it means. Yes. That's another skill. There are a specific order. I'm saying them in a different order, the skills. Another one, for example, would be to start building words. So once you learn that ah is ah, or let's start with C is k. Once you know it's k, ah, t, you start to learn, that says cat. Yeah. And so you start to build out these early reading skills. So this is one thing that is very common actually in many countries, that this science of reading, this very much a scientific approach to teaching children how to read, is not always included in teacher training. So making sure firstly that teachers are taught that when they do their diplomas in primary school. Although I would argue that I think primary school teachers, they deserve a higher recognition of their commitment, and it should be a bachelor's degree, like secondary education. So this would be one way to strengthen that area. And then another is very much on teaching and learning materials. So lots of classrooms in Malawi don't have enough teacher guides for the teachers, but also the workbooks for children and reading books. and you can't learn to read without something to read.
You have to see somewhere and then...
Exactly. So having a more, instead of the teacher being the one at the front of the classroom, or he or she should always be at the front, of course, but having a type of learning that includes the child, brings the child into the learning. Maybe there's more practical activities that they can do, instead of just let's repeat what's on the board, because that's not the best way to be learning.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's also answers a question that I was to ask you about looking at the Malawian education. We say it's free. Now we are talking of secondary schools being free. I think the access to school is there, but we are still remaining behind. Okay, the members of parliament during the launch showing commitment to support the inquiry that you have just launched, to go deeper, to find out the root causes of this gap between primary and the kindergarten. So what would you advise if you are to go back in school today? As you said, you have been a teacher.
So yes, apart from the teacher training and the textbooks, and it's making sure that the curriculum firstly follows particular standards, and by standards I don't mean the different years in school, I mean the quality. So there is a particular, it's very technical, but there's a particular phasing for how children should be learning to read and do mathematics. And maths can be quite complicated concepts if you don't grasp the basics from the beginning. So making sure you follow a particular scope and sequence, that would be particularly impactful. But on the free secondary education, I think you're right. I hear a lot the free, and I think I think it's fantastic. I think it's great progress from your government. But the progress that we want to make and see in secondary is never going to be seen until we fix what's happening younger, when their children are younger. So I very much think that yes, this focus on foundational learning, which, like you said, is also the P class and early childhood education in the CBCCs, that's also very, very important going into Standard 1.
Someone would say what we are doing in Malawi, it's like someone who is like cultivating or maize, but maybe he just plants the seeds and then leave off the field. Do you share the same sentiments?
I think there is a lot of promising progress in Malawi. So maybe just to mention the mathematics progress that's been made with under the government in the last 2 years. So children that have been going through this new maths program that's been supported by the British government, actually, whilst it was started by the British government very much with the ministry and the government of Malawi now are running this program very much themselves and are trying to integrate the learnings from the maths program into the school curriculum. And actually the maths reforms are known in the international education sector as being some of the best and most impactful reforms in mathematics in a low-income country globally. So that's phenomenal progress. So I think some seeds are being watered, Jonathan.
Okay. Welcome. So if you are just tuning in, this is Radio Alinafe. You are with me, Jonathan Mzumazi, and this is Mapuziro Ndi Chitukuko, our program that discusses about development in terms of education. So it's education development, and today I'm joined by a senior education advisor, Beth Gum from International Parliamentary Network for Education. Today we are discussing crisis in Malawi pertaining to foundational learning. So please don't move away as these revelations are for you. Stay tuned to your organization, which is International Parliamentary Network for Education. I know that your focus is on the parliamentarians. So you have activated them through this proposal of the inquiry. what recommendations and maybe feedback do you hope?
So I think, well, firstly, I very much commend the Parliament because it's not always easy to encourage them to take action. So I think they are very receptive to the issues. And I think, that just shows the real political commitment in Parliament to make sure that children all across Malawi are learning to read and write and do basic mathematics by the end of primary school. I hope for the inquiry that this grows political understanding of low foundational learning levels. I think the government are aware of the statistics that you read earlier, but Parliament are not. And that's not to say anything bad about the Malawian Parliament. That's actually what we see working with parliaments all across different regions. So I think this political commitment already is very impressive to me from the Parliament. And then I think in terms of other what I would like to see is I would love to see more parliamentarians championing the issue in their constituencies. So yes, at the national level, yes, once they're in Parliament, talking with different ministers, once they are talking to each other, yes, I would love to see them talking about this issue more there, but also in the constituencies, talking to their teachers more, talking with the students and really connecting with the real issues in foundational learning. I know many of them are, but to have cross-party support for the issue I think would be fantastic.
After it was launched, now it is an issue of them and maybe with the executive now, arm of government, which is, we are talking of them being members of parliament, and then they will still need to push to government. How can our parliament hold the executive accountable to ensure that every child learns and not just go to school?
So this is quite a question, Jonathan. But I think this is the power of the inquiry. So now the Committee on Education, chaired by Honourable Mutani Tambala of Nino South constituency, she has agreed to adopt this inquiry into foundational learning, and she will, with the support of us at IPNEd and other development partners, she will look into all the many issues in foundational learning and draw up a list of witnesses she'd like to call forward. So that will be many civil society organisations, development partners, different bodies within the ministry, and she will call them forward, ask them to present evidence, and then after that the committee will write a report with a series of recommendations. I don't think there is a limit on how many there can be. And in those recommendations, it will advise around various things like teacher training, books, financing, I think maybe one, and various other things. And this report, she then has to present to all of the Parliament. So she will go to the House, present it to the floor. There will be opportunity, I think, for comments. And then the government, so the executive, they have to respond to the recommendations that the committee found. And not only do they have to respond to the recommendations, they have to say how they're going to address them. So it's a very powerful way for us to encourage the executive to fill gaps in what's happening now, but also maybe to highlight things for improvement. So I think that's the way we can hold the executive to account.
Now, this brings me to your attention. I've seen you present in Malawi and then doing a lot. You were visiting some villages. I wonder, what do you expect, or where do you expect Malawi to be the 2063 vision?
So I think, I think the Vision 2063 is a great start. I would love for Malawi to continue making progress towards that vision. There is a part of the implementation plan for the first decade that we're still in now, that talks about including better quality early childhood education. So that's the new P class that's being introduced in some districts. I know Salima is one of them. And growing the early childhood education for children that are 5 years old to help support them with early literacy and numeracy skills, so when they enter standard 1 they're ready for school. They maybe can recognise some letters and some numbers, and this helps reduce how many children repeat standard 1, how many drop out of school. So I think very much this is a part of Vision 2063 and the implementation plan, so I think really continuing to fulfil that would be an excellent step forward. As well as I mentioned to you, I think the teacher training is especially important, and making primary and early childhood education a bachelor's degree like secondary, I think it would be very important as well.
Now, after all is said, we always come back to the table and then look who are responsible and what are their responsibilities. In this case, what do you think should parents, teachers, even the members of parliament themselves, in a circle that will complete the journey, should do?
I think working together, and I'd see a lot of that in Malawi. I see a lot of, just the other day, I was at a CBCC in Lilongwe, and after I saw what was happening in the classroom, afterwards the parents were showing me how they work with their children at home to improve early childhood education. There was also the traditional authority, the local chief, she was there, and various other stakeholders from the government, but also within the community, someone from the various parents on the committee. And I think this collaboration within the community, this is really what is going to drive progress. I would love to see more parliamentarians involved at that level. So I think that, yes, that collaboration, obviously as development partners and civil society there too.
I think Malawi has been blessed, because after the launch itself, we also hear about Flex 2026, which you are part of.
Yes, Yes. But actually, I spoke on a panel on Flex talking about the importance of engaging parliaments in proper financing for foundational learning. So, yes, no, it's been an excellent conference hosted by your government. Lots of rich discussions. There have been many other ministries of education from across Africa here too. So really learning from them, and FLEX stands for the Foundational Learning Exchange. So exchanging these learnings around foundational learning has been really interesting for me. I've learned a lot. I thank Malawi for hosting.
Yeah. A key message that you shared?
My simple message is that if the foundations of learning are weak, it will be very difficult to build on top of that. So if you think of a house, when we build a house, we need to build strong foundations so we can build the walls, put the windows, build the roof, build the door, and then when it's windy and rains a lot, it doesn't fall down. That's exactly what we need to do with our children's learning. We need to build their foundations from the very youngest of ages so that when they get older, they can learn more and more and more skills because their foundation is strong.
Okay, what message do you have for Malawians about the importance of investing, as you are saying, in early education like this?
Investing is always difficult, so talking about investments is always difficult, but the evidence shows that investing in foundational learning is one of the best things that a country can do. Investing in secondary education when there is not strong foundational learning can be a complete waste of resources, because if you don't have children that can read and write by the time they get to secondary school, it's almost a waste of their potential and a waste of the resources you are spending at that level. So really, when we talk about spending, we can talk about in the early years of learning are very much an investment in a child, investment in the nation. If you I'm thinking practically that a mother that has strong literacy skills, very new evidence actually that's from Pakistan, shows that a child's health is 67% more likely to be better if the mother has learned how to read in primary school.
Okay.
So it has a big impact growing literacy skills amongst the children of Malawi for the later generations. So yes, there's also new evidence from actually also Pakistan and Indonesia that shows if you invest in foundational learning, you're more likely, when you enter the workforce, so when you finish secondary school, you're more likely to earn between 4 to 20% more than what you would do if you didn't learn how to read or write. So it's if you think, oh, today I earn $1, but if you learn to read and write at the right level, you could potentially be earning $20 a day, or hopefully more. So very much it can help grow your earnings.
Maybe take home message to listener out there.
The take home message, that's a good question, Jonathan. I think demand your leaders to do more.
Okay.
So, or maybe demand is a strong word. Encourage your parliamentarians and your local leaders to support your issues in foundational literacy, numeracy and socio-emotional skills. I know the will is there. Many political leaders, they want to do something about it, but I think a real word of encouragement from local communities goes a long way.
As we conclude, you told me as a teacher, can you tell me a little experience from maybe your school, the first school when you were studying, teaching in school, and then maybe when you are leaving? What experience, a little experience that you can share?
Okay, so I used to teach this boy called Alex, and he was Vietnamese, so his second language was English, and he found it very difficult to concentrate in school. So I used to spend a lot of time with him one-to-one. I was fortunate that I had a small classroom. So, and Alex very much struggled with reading in English. And I spent 2 years as Alex's teacher. And at the beginning of that time period, Alex was misbehaving in the classroom, not listening, running around. Couldn't concentrate, and I think his behaviour was because he didn't understand what was going on, and he was feeling a bit ashamed that he was behind. So I spent time with Alex to support him both in his behaviour but also in his confidence. And we spent time reading books, reading things that he liked. So he loved Spider-Man, so we'd read about Spider-Man or make stories about Spider-Man. And when I finished teaching him, he actually moved to Australia, so he wasn't my student anymore. When he was leaving, it was during COVID-19, and something happened. A light bulb went on in his brain with reading, and everything just suddenly clicked. He just was able to read much more fluently than he had been before, and he was much more focused, and I could see his confidence really grew. And that, for me as a teacher, was one of the most rewarding things. So yes, I commend all the teachers that are listening and also teaching reading and numeracy, because it's not easy.
Any closing remarks that you would share with us?
Just to say, what I can say to you, Jonathan, and your listeners is Zikomo Kwambiri. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's how we conclude today's program of Mapuziro Digital Kuko. Today, I've been your host, Jonathan Mzumazi. I've been hosting my colleague from another mother, as we say in Chichewa, another mother. That's Beth Gum, a senior education advisor from International Parliamentary Network for Education. Until we meet again in the next episode of this program of Mapuziro Digital Kuko, it has been a pleasure talking to you, Gum. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.